one of you guys recently asked me a really interesting question on religion, my thoughts on religion, and art as a form of worship, art as a form of spirituality. This question, I'll be completely honest, really took me aback, I gotta say. Yeah, I just was not expecting anything like that. I think it's kind of an out there question, and for a while I wasn't even gonna answer it, because I was like, I just don't even know what I think about that. But the further I got from it, I was like, that's actually really interesting, and I think it almost, I don't know if the person asking this intended it, like, was more about me than anything, because I've spoken about my thoughts on faith, I think all the way back in Paint&Talk episode 11. We're on 215 now, so I think we've done our time. I think we can deserve a redo, right? I think I can explain a little bit more of my thoughts on faith here today, but I actually think my thoughts on faith are almost at odds with what I actually worship with, which is art, right? I don't know 100% what this person was meaning when they say they worship art as a religion. It could be in a very different way than I'm interpreting it to be. It could be in a very different way than I judge myself to be worshiping art, 100%. But I don't think it's at all inaccurate to say that I do worship art. I'll get back to that though. I think first I should talk a little bit of my thoughts on faith, right? I am basically a pantheist, right? I believe that like the universe is God, kind of like, it's an older, I don't know if like it's still around, like there's no like pantheist church, like I'm not like, this is just spiritually what I believe, that's the word you put to it. I'm not in a church that's called the Pantheists. Maybe there is one, I'm not really that interested in joining. That's what I believe. I think like the universe itself kind of can be treated as the higher power, right? I believe nature is the higher power. I believe that there is a kind of a grand order of things, and that can be treated as the higher power. This is a conclusion I've come to over the course of years. I was an atheist for a while. I was agnostic for a while. Some people will commonly critique pantheism as just like a fancy way of saying you're agnostic, which I mean, like, I can't really beat those allegations, because I feel like it's kind of a cop-out to be like, everything's God. Like, I feel like that's kind of a cop-out, right? But I do generally believe in sort of a harmony to things, right? I think the reason I believe this is because, well, it's twofold, right? One, I can't deny the fact that it's probably a little bit of my mind really wanting to make sense of things, right? Like, we want there to be overarching narratives. We want there to be some sort of grand reason for everything. And I think being like, there is a grand design to the universe, or the universe exists in some sort of order and harmony that's beyond my understanding, makes life more palatable, right? I think that's like definitely part of it here. Holding faith in something above allows me to take a little bit of the responsibility off myself, and I can't deny that that's part of the reason why religion as a whole is appealing. I also do, though, I think the other side of that is that I look at like history, I look at everything that's happened, and what I believe is going to happen in the future, optimistically, and it's hard for me to look at that and not believe like there's some order here, there's some sort of overarching thing, right? It's just, maybe it's the fact that that's the only way my mind can comprehend it all, but I don't know. That's what I believe. Sometimes I will say, I look around at the way things happen and I wonder maybe they're way too random for this belief of mine to be anywhere near true. I do think that sometimes, but I don't know. I think it'd be inappropriate for me to come here to answer a question and try and have just a whole crisis of identity and religion in front of all you guys. I don't think that'd be an appropriate thing to do on Paint&Talk. Great content, though, don't get me wrong. I was thinking about it, though, because there's that, I think it's a David Foster Wallace quote where he goes like, everybody worships something, right? Like, no matter who you are, no matter what it is, you do worship something. And I was thinking about, like, what do I worship? What do I, like, genuinely put above myself in worship? And I don't think it's my religion, right? Or my faith, rather. I don't believe in, I want to make that distinction, by the way, between faith and religion. I don't think, I don't know if there's like a definitional distinction to be made there. I don't know 100%. I should bring a dictionary in here sometimes, because sometimes we really need to do that. I think I've pitched this idea before. I don't know if there's a definitional difference between faith and religion. I do find, though, that like in the same way that I enjoy politics, but would never be like attach myself to a political party. I would never attach myself to a religion, because I feel like that just brings so much with it, whether you want to or not, right? Like I feel like being like I'm a Christian, but I disagree with everything the church is doing, and don't worry, I'm not like the rest of them. It's just so much more work than just like attaching yourself to a set of beliefs without like having to label it, right? But I guess that's probably a sacrilegious thing to say. My fault, guys. I don't know. I don't find religion to be a productive thing. I actually love a lot of the tenets of Buddhism, but I would never like say I'm a Buddhist, because I just don't believe in attaching myself to something like that. Like the idea that there is a way the universe works that we were able to crack like 1,000 years ago is already a little out there to me. And then the fact that they were able to put a name on it, and everybody who's ever followed that name since like has just got it right, also is like, that's probably not right? Like I don't like religion. My faith though is that of like sort of a pantheism, right? A alteration of it, where I believe that the universe is God, right? But the universe is the higher power. I suppose God is, this is something that actually is very influential. Sorry, this is a whole sidetrack. I feel like we did like a loop back to the original conversation before moving on here. But this is something that actually influenced a lot of my thoughts on religion, is that like if you go back and ask somebody thousands of years ago their idea of what God was, it would be very different from like what we interpret God to be today. Like the idea that God is this just guy up there who's like, oh, let's just like throw lightning here. It's actually lightning outside right now. I don't know if you guys can hear that. The idea that is God is actually a fairly new idea. For most of human history, God has been treated as like just an entity beyond our comprehension. And that's largely what I believe in, right? Just that's why I would say I believe in the universe to be the higher power. But regardless, moving on from my own thoughts on religion, which if you want to hear my journey, you can go back all the way to Paint and Talk episode 11. Actually, it was one of my favorite paintings at the time I made it. Fun fact. But David Foster Wallace has this quote, everyone worships something. And I was thinking about that quote, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm a pantheist. I worship that, right? And then I was like, I don't worship that. It's something I believe, and at times even have crises with, but I wouldn't say it's something I worship. And then I was trying to think, what do I actually worship? What do I functionally worship? And I believe with my whole heart that I do worship art. I mean, it's hard to deny that, right? Like I do this every day when it at times is extremely unpractical. And even if I'm not doing this, I will write all the time, even when it's not practical. I have gotten yelled at for doodling more times than I can count. You know what I mean? Like if there is something that I illogically do that I treat as more than myself, it would be art, right? I wonder what that means. Like I wonder, because it's not, you know, you don't something worshiping something doesn't automatically make it a form of spirituality. It doesn't at all. It definitely doesn't make it a religion, right? Like I mean, like people worship like Sabrina Carpenter because she's a pop star, but like nobody's out there like Sabrina Carpenter is God. That's actually, I think, a distinction that sort of comes from Christianity, right? The whole no idol worship thing, or maybe that's Islam that comes from, I don't know. God, how many religions have I probably upset today now? But the whole no idol worship thing has made people think that to worship something means you place it right next to God. I think it's very possible to worship things and not put them at all next to any sort of God. Like I think you could worship anything if you wanted to, right? Like David Foster Wallace, I think in that quote, and don't quote me on this because I could be completely wrong. It's been a while since I watched this interview, but I believe he was talking about TV. Like he was like, I feel like we worship entertainment, right? Shout out Sabrina Carpenter. New album coming soon. It's very exciting. I am one of the rare people, by the way, that's like all three of the covers. So yeah, let's get that straight. No, but I do genuinely believe I worship art. I guess entertainment's a form of it. So that's interesting, right? But I don't think I see it as like my sort of spirituality. And I wonder if worshiping art is just a roundabout way to worship humanity. Like I wonder if that's just a roundabout form of atheism, right? Because if we are to say worship is akin to a spirituality in this case, right? Because that's what this question was asking that really got me thinking. If we are to take this as a worship, I wonder if it's just a roundabout way to worship ourselves, right? Because art is, of course, the Oxford definitions, the expression or application of human creative skill or imagination, but we can sort of eloquently put that to human-made things, right? Art is anything that humans put their mind to create. And is that not just a way to end up worshiping ourselves, right? Like, there's the famous phrase of like, an artist puts himself in every piece. Like, when I worship art, and my own art especially because I put so much time and dedication to it, am I not just worshiping myself in a roundabout sense? Is that not just another form of like ego that I partake in? And I wonder, you know, I think now about this because the person who asked this, it was on a community post a while ago. So this is your evidence right here that I read every single one of your comments and they get to me deeply. But I remember they said like my friends are having some trouble with it, and I really should just like, I wonder if you're watching this, the person who commented that, like what are you doing? Like what does this look like? I'm genuinely very curious, but I suppose if I were to try and say something about this, which I have very little information on your situation, I can only speak on my own, but if I were to try and say something about this, I'd say that not only can you worship art, I think a lot of us probably do worship art. Because when we think about what do you like painstakingly, gruelingly put your work into, it is art. Like I know like 80% of the people watching this are artists. What do you do when you get home, when you're like, I have an hour, right? The logical thing that most people would think to do is like, let's just chill, let's do nothing, right? Maybe go for a walk, relax. And art can be a form of relaxation, but there is something that's a little bit bizarre about in that scenario being like, I'm going to work hard on something, oftentimes put standards upon it that I cannot reach, and then not like how it comes out. That's an interesting thing that all of us do as artists. I guess maybe it is a form of worship. And then even, I guess you could, if we're to draw this to a really crazy analogy, oftentimes artists who are trying to be commercially successful will work years behind the scenes, putting in illogical amounts of work 24/7 to try and be the best they can, right? And if they are successful, they are rewarded for it with a life of pleasure and, you know, something not too dissimilar from back in the old days when the guy got rich and he was like, I give it all to God, or people still do that. People believe their faith is what makes them successful. Was your faith in yourself and your art not a form of what's making you successful? So I guess in that sense, if you want to look at it that way, maybe art's the only real proven form of worship. The only way to actually transcend is through things that we can make with our own two hands. But I don't know. I think this is an interesting conversation. I'd really like to think about it more, but I'd love your guys' thoughts on this especially the person who commented that if they are watching this. It's been, I think, months since you commented that, so there's a great chance that you're like, this guy didn't respond to my comment, and then you're like, I'm never watching this guy again. So sorry about that if that happened, or if somebody watching this maybe knows him, they could tell him. But, you know, yeah, it's a really interesting question. I wonder, because I think there is a genuine angle in which not only can you treat art as this thing that is exterior to humans, but something that we actually put above ourselves. Because I mean, like, how many people have died in the name of making something bigger than themselves, you know? Whether that be a painting, whether that be a sculpture, whether that be technology, you know? So I don't know, it's an interesting one. This is the painting, final one with this color palette. This is not a good color palette, guys. These colors I don't know why, they get too messy. The paints aren't really moving on the brushes like they're supposed to. Something's weird. There's a conspiracy. I'll say it. I don't know what's going on here. They look okay. Like they don't, you know what it is? They don't even look cool enough to where I'm like, this is worth these being annoying to paint with. They're just boring. They're just making me mad. So I'm never looking at these again until I take all these photos to put them up in the final post when I post all these color palette paintings together, because I'm not going to waste your guys' time with 20 posts of blocks on canvases that I did as drills, right? So go check out the Instagram, go follow over there to be ready for that post, I guess, I don't know. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint&Talk episode 215. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.